Hello everyone, I'm Anita and I'm back with another video. Today is new for me because I've just gotten a new tripod. I'm really excited about that. So now I don't have to sit down on the floor filming anymore, and I can sort of do whatever I feel like. So we're trying this angle today, maybe it will be different next time, we'll see. But right now I am going to be doing my monthly recommendations video for April, which is this month. We're focusing on big books, so books that are 500 pages or more. And yeah, this is a topic that I'm really excited about. I have 8 different books to talk about today. The first book, and the shortest of the books I'm going to be recommending today, is The Firm by John Grisham. This is a standalone book and it's 501 pages. This book follows a man who joins this law firm in Memphis. If I remember correctly, it's been a while since I read it. I read it in January of 2015, I think. And yeah, he takes a job there and becomes into things, and he gets a lot of different things that he gets for being part of the company, and it almost seems too good to be true. And as things goes along, he finds out that things are not exactly as it seems. There's a lot more going on in this law firm company than you first think, and it suddenly spirals out, and he sort of has to flee because he's noticed something that he wasn't supposed to, and he wants everyone to know about it. So he's sort of finding a way to show the whole world how terrible a company this is, how much they're trying to, yeah, they're definitely not playing by the rules, if you will. And I loved this book from the beginning to the end. It was really suspenseful, and it's the first book I've read by John Grisham. I've read one more book by John Grisham now, and I didn't really enjoy that as much as I read when I read this. I read this in one day, and I feel like that was really, really fast considering it's a 500-page book. It was super fast-paced. I just didn't want to put it down at all, and it's sort of the suspense and thriller books that I enjoy. I really enjoy the pace of these sort of suspense novels, and yeah, definitely a high on my recommendations. I have never watched the movie that was made where Tom Cruise is starring in the lead, but I am considering watching it now since I've read it, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be enjoying the movie as much as I enjoyed the book, but that's often the case, so yeah. But let me know in the comments down below if you've watched the movie or if you've read the book and what you thought of them. Coming in as number 7 on this list is going to be, actually, this is a sequel, because the first book in this series was not exactly 500 pages, but I really enjoyed the Department Q series by Jussi Adler-Olsen. He is a Danish author, and this is probably the only Danish author that I've been consistently reading from, and he has so far been writing 7 books in this series. I've caught up to book number 6. I still have to read the 7th one, but my favorite in this series is The Marco Effect, and that fits with this one, so I wanted to add this one into my list, which is the 5th book in this series. The Department Q series follows these 2 people. It's Carl Mørk, who is a police investigative person who first he was part of this trio, and they go out on a job, and everything goes wrong, and it leaves one of his partners, he died, and the other one is completely paralyzed from neck down. And so this leaves Carl with a lot of guilt, and yeah, he takes a year of absence or something, and then he goes back into the job, but no one really wants to work with him because he's a very pessimistic and annoying person, because he has much self-loathing and he hates everyone around him. And yeah, so he's basically put down in the basement to start the Department Q, which is basically just a reason for them, the police department, to put him away so that no one really goes in his way. And his task is to sort of solve these cold cases, or just actually filing them, and yeah. But then he gets this assistant called Assad, who is a Syrian refugee, and he's definitely very mysterious, and he is from the beginning, and he still is at this point. But those 2 team up, and they start to solve these unsolved cases, because he wanted to prove them that this department will become legendary and all of that. I really enjoy this sort of bickering back and forth between Carl and Assad. That's one of the best things about it. But this particular book, The Macro Effect, follows them as they're trying to figure out murder, and then they know that they have to talk to this little boy called Marco. Marco is like 8 years old or something like that. He's really, really young, and he's been growing up in this sort of gypsy community. His father is sort of the leader of that group, and I think, but they are running around the streets stealing things from around Copenhagen and hiding it them places. But Marco comes upon a body and finds out who had done it, and knew that if they caught him, he would be dead within no time at all. So he flees from this, and he lives on the street for pretty much a big deal of this book. And I really enjoyed the aspects of following the mystery from Carl and Assad's point of view, as well as following Marco's story as he's running around on the streets on his own and trying to figure out what sort of person he is, because he's always in danger. And I really enjoyed it, and I sort of got this is not fantasy at all, you know, but I got the sort of Name of the Wind vibe, and if you've read that book, you probably know what I mean. But definitely I enjoyed this book. It was so incredible, and I really highly suggest you check out this series if you are into thrillers and mystery detective work at all. The next book on my list is another sort of thriller suspense book, and this is The Templar Legacy by Steve Berry. Steve Berry is sort of writing, sort of taking ancient sort of artifacts or things that he explores in different ways with different orders, old orders, and like this is about the Templars. It's about this old book that says something about these Templars, and this is actually following a man who had once worked for the US government in the security area, I think. But when he stops that job, he moves to Denmark into Copenhagen and to sort of run his own bookstore, sort of an antique bookstore. And one day he comes upon an auction where he gets this book, and everything sort of spans from there. And it sort of shifts between historical setting where you follow the Templars and all of that, the present day where you also follow the Templar order thing, and how they're going about things and the sort of scheming and stuff they do in that, as well as from the main character, Cotton Malone. This is the first book in the Cotton Malone series. This is, I think, a 13-book series or something like that now. I've read the first 2 books. I've enjoyed them. I gave them both 4 stars. If you really want to check out Steve Berry, I think you should start out with The Roman of Prophecy. I absolutely love that book, but that is not 500 pages, so I couldn't really recommend that today. This must be another day. And I enjoyed the fact that he takes this sort of ancient thing and build this story up of a lot of factual things that happened, and then adding his own sort of fictional elements to it. That's sort of always what he does. And then the author's note at the end, he sort of explains, this is fact, this is fact, this is fact. This is something I wrote as a fictionary to make this fact work well with my story. And I loved that aspect of it. The author's note is so worth reading afterwards, so you get a lot more about him as a writer. And the next book I want to mention is The Clan of the Cave Bear by Sean M. Auel, I think. This is the first book in the Earth Children series. This is the only book that I've read from this series, but I highly enjoyed the audio of this. I listened to the Danish narration of this, so I don't know how the audio for the English narrator is, but I definitely enjoyed this. This is set in the Neolithic times, is that what it's called? Way back when. And it follows this girl who, I forgot her name. She's sort of, all of her parents and all of around them, they've died, and this group of people come across them and they take her in. And although she looks a lot different than them because they are Neanderthals and stuff, and she's a regular Homo sapien. So, but they take her into a clan, even though they don't really like how she looks, how she's all different and stuff. And what I really enjoyed about this book is how it seemed like this could have actually happened back then. I feel like the author did a lot of research in regards to this, and it fitted well with the story, and it felt like it was very accurate to the time. But some things were also pretty convenient for the main character and stuff. But I really enjoyed this book. I was really engrossed in the story from the beginning to the end. It is really brutal at times, but I guess that's because of the setting and when this was going on, because obviously there was things that happened to the women that was very problematic, but it's accurate towards the time period, so I can't really be extremely angry with how they were treated because of that. Coming in as my next book is my favorite Nora Roberts book, that is Northern Lights, and it is 637 pages. This is a book that follows this man who is a police detective. He has been working for the Baltimore police detective for a while in the murder investigative part. But something happens and he decides that he takes a leave of absence, but then decides that he wants to move away from this from the state and actually moves to Alaska instead, in a small town, which I forgot what it's called. But yeah, up there he takes a job as police chief of this small town, and sort of stumbles upon, after he comes there, he stumbles upon a body that has been up in the mountain in Alaska, the highest mountain in Alaska, where he finds this body that's been up there for the last 20 or something years, at least a lot of time, and it's just frozen down and it's just sitting there, and no one, because it's such an old case, no one really knows what happened, how it all got around to that. But I really enjoyed the investigative part of this. Also that he has, besides this big case, all of these small things that he had to deal with because it's a small town and they think that they could do everything that they want to do. And Nora Roberts also is a romance writer, so there's obviously also a romance in this. I won't say that this is my favorite romance of the books that I've read by Nora Roberts, but I really enjoyed the overall story and it was really entertaining from the beginning to the end. So for that reason, this is my favorite Nora Roberts book so far, and I gave it 5 stars when I read it back in 2014, and I need to reread it at some point to see if I still think that. But definitely a recommendation if you want to check out Nora Roberts. This is also a standalone novel. All of her standalone novels seems to be like romantic suspense, so it has a romantic story, but it also has a suspense story to sort of build this whole story upon. And thirdly is going to be the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. This particular book is 641 pages, so it's a chunky one. But Brandon Sanderson is a great fantasy writer. So far I've only read 2 books and I'm currently reading book 3. But I'm really enjoying this. The magic system is incredible, how he thought all of this through. This is set in a world where you can use the magic by absorbing different sort of metals, and all of the metals have different sort of powers. And some people can only use one sort of metal, and others can use all of the metals. And those who can use them all are the Mistborns. And in this one, we're set in this world that's been ruled by this man called the Dark Lord. The Lord Ruler, or the Dark Lord, he's actually also called that. But I feel that's a little too Harry Potter-like. But the Lord Ruler has been on this throne for as long as anyone can remember. It's almost like he's immortal, and no one really they all want to be rebellious against him. They all want him to disappear, but no one really knows how it's possible for them to actually kill the Lord Ruler, because everyone believes him to be immortal. And this world is sort of divided into 3 sections. There's the very, very lower caste, who are the Scar, and then we have the sort of noblemen, and then we have obviously the Lord Ruler at the top. So if you're a Scar, you don't have any say in anything whatsoever. You're just basically sort of slaves. And then we also have some other groups of people who does other sort of things, but it's a little hard to explain. I think it's something that you should read your way to. But this book in particular follows a girl named Vin. She's a really young girl, and she is taken in to join this rebellion that is led by this guy called Katia. And he knows that she's a Mistborn, so he starts to train her, and she also has to go undercover into the noble world and sort of act as a noble woman and try and spread some rumors about this rebellion. And sort of, yeah, figure things out and get some scheming and stuff. But I really enjoyed the whole book of this. This was really, really amazing. And I'm currently working on the second book in the series, and that's just as amazing, if not better. But definitely this is a great book to get into if you want to check out some more fantasy, but you're hesitant about it. It is a big book, but you're really entertained through the whole deal, I feel like. And there's a lot of character development, there's a lot of world building, and the magic system is so unique that you're really, really interested in this book over the whole thing. And I cannot talk about big books without mentioning The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. So this is probably my favorite fantasy book of all time so far, and I absolutely love this series. And this follows a boy named Quoth. Actually, we meet Quoth when he's running this old inn, and then there's this man coming in to sort of get his story and find out what all the secret about him is, and how he got that reputation, how he ended up at being this innkeeper. But yeah, so this starts by telling you about Quoth when he was only a little boy, and he was a part of this gypsies group going around and entertaining people with dancing and singing and acting and stuff, and where he's sort of taken in by this man who is an alchemist and teaching him about alchemy and how to do this sort of magic. And then everything changes for him, and I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil things. This is my favorite fantasy book of all time so far, so definitely this is a book that I think you should all check out if you want to explore some fantasy books. I just absolutely love this series. And Patrick Rothfuss really needs to release that third book so we can all get the third and final book of this series and be done with it, because we've been waiting for however long this has taken him. And I can't wait to find out when he's releasing that. So when I know the release date, I'm gonna be rereading book 1 and 2 so that I can be up with everything that's happened, because it's been so long that some things I've sort of forgotten a little bit. But I definitely love this book. Actually this is a trilogy that I'm gonna be recommending, but the final books that I'm gonna be recommending this time is all of Robin Hobb's books basically, but in particular her Life Ship Traders trilogy. This is also a trilogy that you can read without having read the Farseer trilogy if you want to. But this series follows multiple perspectives. It's sort of set in this place called Bingetown, where there's a lot of these sea traders, and this series is very heavily focused on family dynamics and stuff. And this is about all of these ships that after a certain generation of a family that's owned this ship, he dies upon it, and the ship sort of comes to life. And then there's a lot of about who owns these ships and some piracy and all of that, because everyone wants these Life Traders ships, obviously. Yeah, I overall just really love this trilogy. It's difficult to explain everything, but one of the things that I really enjoyed about this was the multiple perspectives we got in this. So it's kept the pace of the story was pretty fast paced for the whole deal, and the way that Robin Hobb writes characters is just completely amazing. How you can go from absolutely hating a character to absolutely loving the character by the end of this trilogy, as well as how you can just she really makes you really hate characters. There's also characters that you keep hating for the whole deal, but that you can actually write these characters so you feel so passionate about these, either in a bad way or in a good way. That is amazing. And yeah, definitely a trilogy I will recommend. And the first book in the series is 880 pages, and that is the shortest one of the 3. So definitely a book series that is fitting for this monthly recommendations. Yeah, but these were the last book that I wanted to talk about today. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of the books and what you thought of them. If you want to pick any of the books up for what I've been talking about today, and also leave recommendations about big books down below if you think that I'll really enjoy them. I'd really like to know. I always like add new books to my collection. Except my TBR probably shouldn't get a lot bigger because it's already close to 2,000 books on my GOODREADS TBR, but that's another story. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very, very soon. Goodbye!